I wonder for the Doctor if ranking his companions would be like somebody ranking their exes. Would it just be like weird and skeevy? It's Sunday, which means more Doctor Who content. Yes, if you did not know, around here every single Sunday, new Doctor Who video, and I have been overdue to revisit my ranking of the modern era Doctor Who companions. So that is precisely what I'm going to do today. So, before I get into this, because there's a lot of them to do, allow me to reiterate my criteria for how I choose to define a companion. A companion is any character who appears in more than one story, because also remember with me, two-parters only count as one story, because otherwise we end up with a crap ton of one-offs, many of which are very good, but that's kind of a separate list in my mind. And also they have to have traveled in the TARDIS at least once. And we need to know that they did. Not implied, but know. So there are a number of characters who aren't on this list that other people are going to be like, well, aren't they a companion? They traveled in time or whatever. Yes, we know they traveled through time, but we didn't see them enter or leave the TARDIS as part of that time travel. And the TARDIS is not the only way to travel through time. So, unless we saw them definitively entering the TARDIS right before it went somewhere, or exiting the TARDIS following a landing, then that doesn't count as having traveled in the TARDIS. I'm really strict on this. And even with these strict parameters, I've got some I have to deal with that I really wish I didn't have to. Let's get through this. I've got 21 to cover. Let's start with the bottom of the barrel. Well, actually, technically I have 22, but I'm lumping the two bottom ones together. So that's Angie and Maitland. These were the kids that Clara was nannying, I guess. Like, these kids are the worst. They are awful. They are terrible. I'm so irritated I even have to talk about them. They are ungrateful for the trip. They are whiny. They're useless to the plot. They're not helpful. They're annoying. They distract and detract from an episode that otherwise would have worked significantly better without their presence, namely A Nightmare in Silver. I mean, there are other things wrong with that episode, but they're a big part of it. I don't even want to keep talking about them. I'm going to move on. So, number 20. Adam Mitchell from Series 1. Also a very bad companion. Big difference between him and Angie and Artie, though, and the reason he ranks above them is he's a bad companion by design. He is supposed to be crap at this. He is supposed to make stupid, awful stories because this was still early in the revival, and it helped to illustrate that Rose's ability to travel with the Doctor and follow his rules well enough to be able to continue to travel with him and not mess around to a degree that would force him to ditch her, and that not everyone has the ability to do that. Some people screw up, and as a result, they get booted. And it's sort of, it helps sell Rose a little bit, honestly. And so he does serve a function. He's still a lousy companion, though. Number 19, Jackie Tyler. Jackie is a character who it's funny. She's grown on me a little bit. I don't find her as irritating as I once did. That said, that softening is not enough to actually get her moved any higher than third from the bottom, which was the same place she was last time I did this. So, part of the problem with Jackie is not her, but what she represents. I don't like how much the domestic home life of companions has eaten up time in the show, and she's kind of the embodiment of what annoys me about it. And she, again, not necessarily a terrible character, but I don't particularly enjoy spending as much time with her as we do. Number 18, Courtney Woods, the other kid who travels with the Doctor. I mean, definitely better than Angie and Artie, and honestly could have been decent. It doesn't help that she got saddled with some not very good episodes that she was stuck in, like she shows up in The Caretaker, which is a meh episode. She's in Kill the Moon, which is, I will maintain, is not as bad an episode as a lot of people think it is. up until the ending where it goes completely off the freaking rails, but it's still not great. And her involvement in that is ancillary. Like, it doesn't feel like her traveling with the Doctor to be part of that story changes the story. It feels like that story would have been the same with or without her, which makes her just kind of pointless. Now, those bottom 4 are honestly pretty much the only ones that I can actually say I don't like. Everybody from here, even though some of these are pretty far down the list, I like. So it's just a question of who I like more. Although in a number of cases I'm going to be pointing out their faults to explain why they're not higher. But please understand, from here on out, I actually like all of these to some degree or other. Number 17, Canton Everett, Delaware. I just find him to be very Men in Black. It's a little bit like Men in Black invade Doctor Who in terms of his outlook and how well he's prepared to just roll with what's going on. And I kind of like that about him. And I think the reason he occupies the bottom area of, companions that I like in some degree is that as much as I like him as a character, he's barely counts as a companion in terms of his use in the story and everything else. But I do enjoy him. I think he's a fun addition, especially for the time frame. And getting him at super old was also kind of adorable. Number 16, Brian Williams, Rory's father. He's down this far because, similar to Jackie, it's the domestics thing. A character has to be really phenomenal for them to tie into the domestics but still place really high. And he's better than Jackie, and I feel like you learn a lot about Rory by spending time with his father. And I enjoy that and I appreciate it. Now, part of the reason he is down as far as he is because I'm not counting PS in this. Like, I know a lot of people, there's no reason to not consider it canon because it certainly doesn't contradict anything. But it's a bonus scene as far as I'm concerned. It's unfinished. It wasn't even shot. It's beautiful and I like it, but I'm not factoring that into his ranking. If I was, maybe he'd be a little higher, but this is where he lands. Number 15, Rigsy. It was nice having him back. And I do wish I could put him higher. The problem is when he came back a second time and therefore qualified him for a place on this list, he was more of a plot point than an active participant in things, which was a shame because I really liked him in Flatline. I thought he was a lot of fun and I thought his dynamic with Capaldi was really good. I liked him as a character. I liked the way he reacted and interacted with this weirdness going on. He bounced off Clara pretty well too. So I did like him, but his second appearance felt underwhelming. In many ways, I felt coming out of Flatline, like he could totally be the next companion. And then like when he actually returned, I don't know if it was a case of they just didn't really have good use for him or what, but it made you go like, oh, look at that. Our number 1 draft pick only kind of managed to bunt. That probably made no sense. I should not use sports analogies. Number 14, the one that I'm going to have to explain very carefully, Sarah Jane Smith. So Sarah Jane Smith, understand that my ranking for her in this list is exclusively taking into account her appearances in New Era Doctor Who. I am not taking into consideration any of her classic work, nor am I taking into consideration Sarah Jane Adventures. This is limited only to her main show appearances since the revival. And based solely on those, she is a wonderful piece of nostalgia, but doesn't do a lot to elevate beyond that. I mean, she's good, and I think even if you don't know who she was, even if you didn't watch Classic Show, her appearance still works in and of itself, but she's there to be the hook into the old show. And for that purpose, she works extremely well, but I can't in good consciousness place her above the other companions in terms of her New Era appearances because it is banking so heavily on that nostalgia. Again, banking well, it yields good dividends, but if I'm not taking the root of that nostalgia into account, this is just where she ends up. Number 13, Mickey Smith. So, Mickey was annoying at first. I considered him part of the domestics because even though, he's not, related to Rose, strictly speaking, being her boyfriend and being Earthbound, he felt like another thing that kept tethering the show back to modern era Earth all the dang time, which annoyed me then and really irritates me now. But he did evolve into a fairly interesting character. I liked watching his transition and his evolution and his gaining a sense of adventure, his gaining a sense of independence, his gaining a sense of eventual kind of badassery. I liked it. And I think ultimately what sells me on him is the way, I think it was actually the Metacrisis doctor. No, it is the doctor, because Metacrisis was off the TARDIS getting ready to blow up the Daleks. And all the companions are jumping on, and Mickey comes on, and Tennant is there going, Mickey! It's just something about the fun in his voice. I'm like, yeah, that's the right tone for this guy. Number 12, the always controversial Clara Oswald. I didn't go back and check. I have a feeling this is probably a similar place to where she landed last time I did this list. And honestly, she had probably bounced her. If I'd done this list, I don't know, a year ago, I might have put her higher or I might have put her lower. It's a matter of trying. I'm not sure succeeding, but trying very hard not to hold hell-bent against her as a character overly so. It is relevant to her ranking because it's the overselling of her character that drives a lot of the bad decisions of that episode, but it's certainly not the fault of Jenna Coleman, if nothing else. But the thing with Clara is I did not like her with Smith. I thought they had lousy chemistry, and I hated the whole the mystery of the Impossible Girl, because she wasn't a character, she was a plot device. And she didn't even feel characterized. She felt very hollow. Now, her first series with Capaldi, I actually came to like her quite a bit there. I rather enjoyed her. First of all, I think her chemistry with Capaldi much better than she had with Smith. She finally felt like a fully formed character. I like the stuff that goes on with Danny Pink. I like what that says about her. I like the way that impacts her. I like the way that impacts her relationship with the Doctor. But then we get her last series. We get series 9. There are parts that are basically leading up to Face the Raven. And if she had stayed dead with Face the Raven, she would definitely be higher than this, because it felt like a proper build-up to that death, because she, was trying to emulate the Doctor so much, and then how far she pushed it was what got her killed, because she thought, well, he could handle this, I can handle this, and she couldn't, and she died. And then, then Hellbent happened. And as I said, I don't want to overly ding the character for the monstrous sins of this one episode, but ultimately I feel the fairest thing I can do is basically just leave her where she was last time I did this ranking. Number 11, Rose Tyler. A lot of people got really enamored with Rose. I never really did. I like Rose. I like her spunk. I like her street smarts. I like her toughness. I like her humanity, her sense of empathy. That was good, especially with Eccleston. I didn't love the romantic elements with her and Tennant. And as much as I like her as a character, even setting that aside, I don't love her. So it just becomes one of those things where, she's fine. And again, I know some people really love Rose, and they think she's the end-all be-all. And, good for you folks, but she's not for me. She's fine. But now we get into the top 10. So let's start this little bit of the list with Nardole. I really do like Nardole. I think, and Matt Lucas is not an actor I've ever really warmed to. He's not someone who I'm like, oh, I can't stand that guy. But he would show up and stuff and be like, yeah, I feel like this guy's just got a stock bit that he does. And he kind of feeds into that a little bit here, but it doesn't feel like a bit. It does actually feel like a character, at least once he became the companion. I actually don't really like his appearance in the Husbands of River song. But once he was traveling with the Doctor and the way he tempered with and also stood up to Capaldi, I really enjoyed. There are moments that it still breaks, like when he gets all sort of and shrieky. That feels weird. That feels forced. So there are still moments that like that bring him down a little bit, but I enjoy Nardole quite a bit. I think he's fun. I think he's funny. I like that he certainly has moments where he comes across as tougher than you'd think, just for his willingness to stand up to the Doctor the way he does. Number 9, Rory Williams, or Mr. Pond, as the Doctor would prefer to think of him as. You remember what I said about Mickey? Same thing for Rory, but better. First of all, I liked him, earlier on than I did Mickey, and where he ends, having his badass moments and having it all center around Amy and his just looking at a Cyberman in the face, going, "Where is my wife?" and the commitment from him, the devotion to her. But also just the strength of his own character and his, pushing to help. Because as much as he's there because of Amy, he proves himself as a companion in his own right. And I really like his dynamic. I like the dynamic of that trio, actually, a lot. Rory, Amy, and the Doctor. And all three of them have great chemistry with all three. With each one of them has good chemistry with the other two, and collectively as a group they work really great. And yeah, I enjoy Rory quite a bit. Number 8, River Song. I know some people really can't stand her, and a lot of people point to her as like the epitome of Moffatisms when it comes to him writing female characters. And while I can't necessarily dispute that, I still like her. She's fun. I love how fun she is. I love her sense of adventure. And I love the sense of emotional weight just lurking behind the surface of that. We get that, right from the first encounter that we have with her. I really enjoy getting to understand her dynamic with the Doctor better every single time we see her, and filling in a little more and learning a little more, and sort of having a picture painted where she is what she presented herself as from the first time we saw her. But there is also more feeling and emotion behind that than maybe she would even like us to be aware of, and certainly more than she's comfortable showing the Doctor a lot of the time. And I enjoyed her with all 3 Doctors that she appeared with. I don't know if it's worth ever bringing her back again. Part of me would like to see her with Whittaker, but at the end of the day, I really do feel that Husbands of River Song was a good send-off for her as a character. I think it's time to be done, but I did enjoy her time. Number 7, this I consider to be the biggest corrective versus the ranking that I did last time I did this. Number 7, Martha Jones. Significantly upgraded from the last time I did this ranking, because the thing was, basically last time I did this, I counted the fact that the story kind of treated her like crap as a knock against her as a character, and that was unfair. What I said last time I did this list was I called her the rebound companion, which is accurate, but as a character, she is better than that. As a performance, Freema Agyeman gives better than that. This is a character that is better than she got. And the thing is, there are points where the show actually does acknowledge that. I'm not sure it acknowledges it as fully as it could. It still ultimately did short shrift Martha as a character, and most of her sort of repeat appearances after making the very smart and strong decision to leave didn't honor her as much as I would have liked them to. But Martha's a great character. Martha is smart. Martha is compassionate. Martha has a terrific rapport with Tennant. Martha is a great companion, written into scenarios that treated her as disposable, which was unfair because she's really good. Number 6, Captain Jack Harkness. Now, much like when I mentioned Sarah Jane Smith, I am not counting anything other than the main appearances here. Difference is, not counting additional appearances hurt Sarah Jane versus where she might otherwise have landed. For Jack, that's doing him a favor because I like him on here so much better than on Torchwood. Because on here, it's like with River. He's fun. I love how much fun he is. Especially when he was paired with Eccleston. He was good with Tennant, but when he was with Eccleston, it was perfect because he had that sense of swashbuckling swagger that Eccleston didn't have. And that's not like a deficiency on Eccleston's part. His version of the Doctor wasn't designed to be that. That's why Jack was there, and that's why he fits so well. With Tennant, it was slightly more redundant because Tennant had that swagger. And so you didn't need another character to have it. But Jack is just so much fun. And the feel and the weight of his immortality in something like Utopia, I think, just gets the balance right, versus how overplayed they do the eternal angst in Torchwood. Jack is just fun, and I love fun. It's hard to beat fun for me. Here we go, folks. Top 5. Number 5, Amy Pond. I think in my head, I still think of her as Amelia, though. Funny. I like Amy a lot. I especially like the dynamic as built with her and Smith. That she, because of what happened to her as a kid, that she encountered him and he basically abandoned her without meaning to. That she is both enamored with him, but also kind of over him. She can't resist him, but she's really irritated by him and kind of already fed up with his crap. I love that balance. I love the way they do that. And Karen Gillan, she's just a magnetic performer. She's on screen. You have to look at her. You can't not watch this woman. And again, I'll mention the chemistry between her and Smith, between her, Smith, and Rory. It's all so good, that dynamic of those three, and in herself on her own, and seeing some of the things she goes through in episodes like Amy's Choice and The Girl Who Waited. There are wonderful explanations that go into even more detail as to why she is such a good character. And I think possibly the only reason she does not rank higher than number 5 is because they decided to have her want to jump the Doctor's bones, which was totally unnecessary. And I really wish they hadn't done that. Because, yeah, she could have been top 3 material otherwise. Number 4, Bill Potts. Now, I have a completely separate video, a rather lengthy one, addressing the idea of Bill as being an agenda-pushing companion. There should be a little link up there. Assuming that I did this right. So I'm not even going to address that aspect. What I will say is there were a lot of people who, even after the arguments I presented saying how she wasn't, I don't believe that she was agenda pushing, or definitely not to the degree that people assert that she is. There were still a lot of people that said, yeah, but she's got no character. And I think on that, I'm like, what show were you watching? She has so much character. She has a lot of developed character. I mean, the Doctor himself says it when she has her first appearance in the pilot, where, he says to her, I say something that people don't understand. Everyone else frowns. You smile. She likes to be challenged. She loves new experiences. She loves wanting to understand the universe better. And that's reflected in the kinds of questions that she asks. And I know people like can be all sort of snarky about it. It's like, oh, she compared the robot to emojis, whatever. That's her frame of reference. She wants to understand. And I love her dynamic with Capaldi. It is a teacher-student relationship. It's reminiscent in some ways of the Seventh Doctor and Ace. So I think she has a lot going on as a character. I think she's got a lot of personality. I think her youth is well illustrated. I feel like she is the most properly youthful character since Rose, honestly. Because Rose had a very youthful energy. Martha was more mature, as she should be. She's about to become a doctor. Donna was kind of her own thing, but getting to someone like Amy and Rory, Amy starts immature, but we get to see her mature over the time. And then Clara, I mean, they really didn't seem to know what they wanted Clara to be for a good chunk of her run. But Bill is inquisitive, but has that much younger energy, and again, paired with how old and crotchety Capaldi could be, I think she's awesome. I like Bill. I was gonna say I get why other people don't, but I'm sorry, I kind of don't. I love her. So here we go. Top 3. The highest new entrant on the list. This was a character not up for consideration prior when I did this list before. A character actually had not even been introduced. Number 3, Missy. Yeah, you heard me right. Missy. Because, she's the master, she's a villain, she's a problem in Series 8, she's a problem in Series 9. But in Series 9, you start to see that playfulness move over slightly to be a little bit less megalomaniacal. I was almost going to say less malicious. I'm not sure it is. But a little less ambitious, perhaps. And then in Series 10, in the vault, with her interactions with Capaldi, and then actually traveling with him. And actually trying to work together and seeing them in something like World Enough in Time. In my head, it will be one of the great, should-have-beens. I would say, honestly, right up there with Paul McGann getting at least his own complete series, outside of that movie, is the idea of a series of Capaldi's Doctor, 12th Doctor, and Missy as his companion. I think that almost could be like my ideal dream series right there. I love their dynamic and their interaction and their chemistry together so much, and I love Missy as a character. And to me, she always did feel like the Master, but she did feel like a new incarnation, a new variation, but she still felt true to that character. I liked her as a villain. I loved her even more during the episodes where I believe she does qualify as a companion. So we get to our top 2. And I kind of hope you didn't go back and look at my old one, because if you did, then you already know these top 2, because they haven't changed. So, number 2, Wilfred Mott. I said way back when I talked about Rory's dad that it takes a lot for me to overlook the domestic roots of a character to have them rise above that. This is a domestic character, and he's number 2. That should say almost everything about how good he is. Wilf is a phenomenal character in and of himself. His sense of energy, without ever feeling childish, never losing the weight of his age, the weight of his experiences, and him sitting down to talk with Tennant in the end of time. And, you know, shifting so quickly from looking down at the earth and saying, I was down there, you know, Private Mott, and then turning to the doctor, we must look like ants to you. Like that should be a awkward gear shift, maudlin, awful. It's wonderful. It's perfect. And then he breaks my heart and he makes me cry when he tries to hand the doctor the gun and he's choking up, calling the doctor the most wonderful man he's ever known and that he doesn't want him to die. Oh, Wilf is wonderful and amazing, and there is only one person who could possibly rank above him. That is his own granddaughter, Donna Noble. Donna is, to me, the perfect companion because she is the best friend. She's the friend who is happy to travel with you, the friend who every now and then wants a little breathing space, the friend who is not clingy but who values you, the friend who will call you out on your crap, the friend who will praise you when you get it right. She is the doctor's best friend, and thankfully the show acknowledges that with those words, best friend. And that is everything that I want, that I love in a companion relationship. There are other dynamics that can work. I can enjoy a certain amount of antagonism. I can enjoy, you know, the mentor-student type relationship. But at the end of the day, if you ask me what do I want out of a companion relationship, I want a friendship. An established friend. Not a building one, but something that feels like these two feel like they've been doing this forever and it feels like they could keep doing it forever. And that is Donna. That is Donna in the TARDIS. And it makes her exit so much more painful and tragic to know that she could have had fun and been good for the doctor to be with him forever, for as long as she lasted. And that is why Donna Noble still remains #1 companion for me. So that will wrap up this re-ranking. What are your thoughts on it? You do not have to list all 21 that I went through. Why don't you stick to a top 10 or a top 5 or just a #1 or just a bottom 5? Whatever mood you're in, whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Do all the stuff. You know the stuff. Like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter. Support me on Patreon. That's kind of the big one. Links for all that stuff and more is down in the description. So until next time, this council is adjourned.